We all have our bad days. Like we all have our days that energy feels low and we're not like going, through life the way that maybe we want to or choose to. But I would say all in all, from like the minute my feet hit the side of my bed in the morning to like the minute like I go to bed, I feel like my energy is typically at that high level. My hardest time of the day, I get up at 3:45 every morning. My hardest time of the day is about 3 or 4 p.m., like where my energy feels a little low and feels a little wonky. And I just know it. I'm like, okay, this is the time of the period that I'm just like, I'm not going to try to plan anything that I have to be like super laser focused on. And it's typically the end of my work day before I'm getting home and then taking over as like carpool mom and dance mom and football mom and all the things in between. But I always say, listen, we have a choice. And, I hear people sometimes say like, oh, there's so much negativity on social media. And I'm like, no, you're just watching the wrong channels, right? Like we decide how we want to show up. And let me tell you, I can be a lot for some people and that's okay. Like my energy isn't for everyone, but I think it's really understanding, that, hey, this is where I vibe at the best state. And I know I'm operating at the best state when I can show up with that energy because it makes me feel good.
Welcome back to the Anniston Riekstins show. I am just so pumped about this conversation. It is bright and early on a Wednesday morning. I have my coffee and I have just one of my most favorite and famous. I think you're kind of famous, Erika.
I'll take it.
One of my most famous and fabulous and fantastic sisters with me, Erika Rothenberger. And we immediately got onto this Zoom, and before we even hit record, we're already like just going 80 miles a minute, just talking about life and I was like, wait, let's stop right now and let's hit record and let's bring everyone along with us. So thank you for joining us, Erika. I'm really happy you're here.
Oh, I'm so excited to be here. No better way to start a day. Whenever you said, oh yeah, I could do an 8 a.m. one, I was like, this is exactly why we're so aligned.
I think you're a morning person. I'm getting that you're a morning person,
yes.
So am I.
Yes, you try to have me do the same thing at 10 p.m. at night, and I'm like a zombie.
Forget about it. I'm the same, right?
I'm usually actually sleeping. Full disclosure.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I'm asleep by 9 or like 9:30, and so. But I think it's actually really refreshing when you can get to a point where you're unapologetic about like I'm better. My energy is better in the morning, so let's do the morning. And it's like really learning how to speak and advocate for who you are, your energy.
Yeah. And I love it. Actually, yesterday I heard you had like a live or, on, I forget if it was Facebook or Instagram, what channel I was on, but you were actually talking about even during like sometimes it's a walk, right, for you, and other times, like depending on like where we are as women and our cycles and all of this sort of stuff, that we have to really listen to that energy and not feel guilty because we didn't go on a 5-mile run.
100%. Do you have a hard time with that? Do you have a pretty strict like routine that you follow?
I do. I am a very, like, I always say, like, overcoming perfectionist. I'm an Aries. I'm a firstborn, and I'm a fiery red, when it comes to like a disc profile. So I have to like really like watch that and then give myself grace. Hence my podcast is called Grit, Grace, and Glitz. And I purposely put the grace in the middle because to remind myself that amongst all the, gritty stuff that we have to do, the hard work and the glitz and celebrating ourselves of the things that go right is like, hey, giving ourselves the grace in between that when the things don't go right or when you aren't as gritty that day, when that day you can only give 60% because that's your 100% that day, that it's okay. But it's it's easier said than done.
Yeah. Yeah, I totally agree. So when I first met Erika, it was at Align this last year, which is for those of you that don't know what Align is, it's Brooke Hemingway's event she does every single year. And I spoke last year and it was my first time attending. And I remember meeting you and when you meet those people that you're just never going to forget because their energy is just so big and enveloping. And you walked right up to me and you were just like oozing with joy and with energy. And I was like, I wonder if this is like her natural state or if you were just like high on life. But what I've come to learn watching you, because I now stalk you on Instagram and Facebook, is that this is, to me, from the outside looking in, this looks like who you are. So have you always been this way, this vivacious energy?
I love this question. And I will tell you that I feel like the majority of my life, like, I mean, let's face it, we all have our bad days. Like, we all have our days that energy feels low and we're not like high, but like going, through life the way that maybe we want to or choose to. But I would say, all in all, from like the minute my feet hit, you know, the side of my bed in the morning to like the minute like I go to bed, I feel like my energy is typically at that high level. My hardest time of the day, I get up at 3:45 every morning. My hardest time of the day is about 3 or 4 p.m., like where my energy feels a little low and feels a little wonky. And I just know it. I'm like, okay, this is the time of the period that I'm just like, I'm not going to try to plan anything that I have to be like super laser focused on. And it's typically the end of my work day before I'm getting home, and then taking over as like carpool mom and dance mom and football mom and all the things in between. But I always say, listen, we have a choice. And I see you and Rudy live this too. We have a choice of how we want to show up with our energy. We have a choice to decide how other people's energy is going to impact us. And, I hear people sometimes say like, oh, there's so much negativity on social media. And I'm like, no, you're just watching the wrong channels, right? Like, we decide how we want to show up. And let me tell you, I can be a lot for some people, and that's okay. Like, my energy isn't for everyone. But I think it's really understanding, that, hey, this is where I vibe at the best state. And I know I'm operating at the best state when I can show up with that energy, because it makes me feel good.
Yeah. Yeah. You and I are very similar. I've been waking up a lot at 4. But you know what's interesting? And I wake up without an alarm, like every day, like same time, 4 a.m., same thing. I hit my slump in mid-afternoon. Sometimes I'll take a little 15-minute nap. I work from home, right? So I'm able to do that. But what I found or what I find in my own life is when I am in alignment and my plate is full of things that I legitimately enjoy, right? And I am being creative, and I'm waking up with something exciting, or I'm inspired, that I need less sleep. It's the times in my life where I found that I have been out of alignment or spending a lot of time with a lot of things, a lot of shoulds, and feeling that like I don't know, there's aspects of my life that I'm not crazy about where all of a sudden I need a lot of sleep. Do you find that?
1,000%. And I actually have, for someone who's so into like health and wellness, like some people will say to me, like, you really need to sleep more. Cause I typically will say that I'm asleep by 10 o'clock, sometime between like 9:30 and 10. And I sleep till 3:45. And some people would say that is not enough sleep. And I'm like, I wake up energized. I wake up excited for the day. And I truly believe that it's because that first part of the day, like, I'm doing all this creative stuff. I'm creating summits and reading, like I was showing you before, reading my highlighted books and journaling. And like this morning was hot sculpt yoga and flow, right? Like, it's like, I know that I'm in that energy that I need to be in. And it's also saying no to the things that don't serve you. And the older I get, I always say the wiser, right? Like, is the more I'm just like, no, that's not going to serve me today. Like, I don't need to. I used to feel, 15 years ago, well, I had to stay in the office till 5 o'clock because that was the right thing to do. Now, if like, I'm like, no, actually, I'm done and I can go finish whatever I need to do. And I leave at 3:30 because the energy feels right. Yeah. And so I think it's just really finding those swim lanes that work for you.
100%. And that's on the tail end probably of a lot of work that you've done on yourself, right?
Yes.
Of clearing through, I believe that at our core, we are perfect. We are exactly as we need to be. Like, there's nothing wrong. What happens is we collect distortions. Like, there's distortions in our field, right? In the form of limiting beliefs, patterns, conditioning, where we were told you need to be this way, or you need to be at work from 8:30 to 5:30, or it's not going to work. You know what I mean? Or you're lazy. All that conditioning then creates distortion. So the lens that we're looking at ourselves through, the lens that we're looking at the world through, is like it's like looking at putting on those like kids' play glasses that aren't actually, you can't really see, or the colored ones. Like, all of a sudden everything you see is green, and the world is not green, but you're seeing it as green. And so I always think someone who is able to be so self-aware about their energy, about what lights them up, what brings them joy, are the people that have cleared a lot of those distortions.
Yes. And I also think it's also protecting that energy, to your point. Like when you need that 15-minute nap, I used to feel guilty saying, "Ooh, I took the nap." Now I'm like if I know we have like my husband and I have dinner plans or we're going out with friends on a Saturday night, I'll actually take a 20 or 30-minute nap because I know I'm going to show up at that dinner so much better as myself, where before I'd be like, I'm just going to plow through it. And so I think it's also finding out like, hey, listen, like I know my time between 3 and 4 is low. I'm not going to try to show up for people that way. So knowing how to elevate it, and I say every day that you have a debit card of your energy, right? How much you're giving out, how much you're taking in, what energy you're exchanging, you have to decide how you're going to spend it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I have so many things, and I was prepping for this interview, which I didn't do a lot of prep because I knew that our conversation was just going to flow, and I was really curious, like what was going to come forward. But I was thinking about you, Erika, and I was thinking about what, we're always teaching through our demonstration, and I think that you are such a beautiful demonstration of what it looks like to live a big life and unapologetically, and you demonstrate what for so many years I was in a place in my life too where I was a high-level executive, right? I had a team, I had responsibilities, I have kids, a husband, a home, after-school activities, and I have my dreams and my purpose and this fire in my belly to serve that won't go away, and to create content, to create spaces, to create tools. And a lot of people look at that and just think, well, that's not possible. I'm going to wait until my kids get out of the house and then I'll write the book. I'm going to wait until I'm out of my corporate job. Okay. And before I start moving towards my purpose, because they can't coexist. So break that illusion for us. Like, can you take us through your own journey of being able to, I'll just say it, have it all, right? But not everything, just the things that you want, right? Have it all. And how you're able to do that so beautifully.
Well, I could give you all the tactical advice and like the color-coded calendars and the time blocking, but like that's not where I really want to go with this conversation. It's more, I always say, and I love that you say it, I call it the audacity to have it all. And I actually have a keynote where I talk to women about that. And I love how you prefaced it. I think it's really important. Sometimes we think it needs to be more on the list. It needs to be bigger. It needs to be, no, it's really what is your all. And everyone's definition that's listening to this podcast right now, that's out in the universe, is different, right? And no one's all is better or worse than anyone else's. It's just what aligns with you. But you need to figure out what ALL actually stands for yourself. Like, what is that, to your point, that's going to give you that high frequency, that's going to make you not feel tired and sluggish at the end of the day, because it just feels like it's, again, that energy drain every day. And, it's taken me a long time, and it still takes me time. And I would be lying to you to say that I have the all figured out. I will tell you that it's continued to evolve, maybe in a lowercase all before. Now I feel like it's an uppercase all, and I'm really figuring out where those like swim lanes are and where I want to be aligned. But I think equally it's saying, okay, what can I say no to that doesn't serve me, and creating those real healthy boundaries. And 3 years ago, I had something, very significant happen in my life. And sometimes I feel like when something significant happens in life, it really makes you relook at everything. And it really helped me peel back that onion. And I'm not saying who's listening to this, you have to wait for that big significant thing to happen. I implore on you to figure that out now. Figure out where that needs to be, and then start to decide on how you can fit it in a little bit every day. And that consistency, that 1% better every day can really bring you to that next level. And so when I decided was the key word, and then took action, messy, complicated, I don't know if I'm going right or left or back or forward or how many miles per hour I'm supposed to drive right now, and just started doing, that's when the magic started to unlock. But there was a second part of that. It was surrounding myself with the right community, women like yourself, women like that were at the Align conference, that I realized that I wasn't alone. So when those days felt daunting, when I felt like I wanted it all, I wanted to be an amazing mom, I wanted to be a great wife, I wanted to have my corporate career, I wanted to be able to start a podcast and write a book and, have an Audacious summit. I was like, it felt like I was drinking from a fire hose, almost overwhelming. And then I had to decide it in bite pieces. And this year I was super, super intentional with 3 really aligned goals outside of being a mom and working and all of this. And that was, speaking on the right aligned stages. That was coming up and having my summit this year. And that was writing my book and then publishing it in early 2026. And everything else, it wasn't that I will never do it, but I had to decide that they had to go on the back burner. So I think that it took a lot of quiet time and it took a lot of intention, and it takes a lot of time every day when the new shiny object comes in front of me, because I'm a manifesting generator and I love, all those things, is I have to say, no, like, this doesn't serve me right now, doesn't mean forever. So I think those are like some things that, like, you just really have to get quiet and get intentional on, and stop listening to all the noise and really listen from like your heart of what is going to serve you, and then find that community that's going to lift you.
Oh my gosh, so much. And there's so much that you just said. I was like making little notes. So I was like, yes, yes, yes. And I totally agree with you. I think the first thing I want to call out is that what I'm hearing, and what I hope that anyone's listening is hearing, is that you had to learn the art of being a really good steward of your energy. Mm-hmm. And I think our energy is our greatest asset. And some people are just waking up to this. Some people have been practicing this for a while. But to the degree that you you need to become the bouncer of your own energy. Like, you've got to become your greatest advocate, because not everyone deserves your energy, number one. Not every action deserves your focus and deserves you to take that action. Like, you have to start really becoming discerning, knowing that, okay, every day I wake up, I have an amount of energy, right? And imagine it was money. Like, how would you be spending it, right? If you knew that a certain action or behavior or whatever was going to, like, where would you be investing that, knowing that it's going to give you a return? And is it in that Netflix series that you're watching every night that's keeping you up till midnight? What kind of return is that going to give you? Like, I had to make Rudy and I both, I know you have too, like, we had to make some really serious choices about, okay, I wanted to write a book. Last year I wrote a book and I published it in January. And I would get up every morning at 4. I would write from 4:30 to 6:30. The kids got up, and then that's when my day would begin, right? And that was the time. That meant the cost was I wasn't staying up late every night. I said no to a lot of invitations. We're not night people. Like, we're really not. Like, if you reached out to me, Erika, and you're like, oh my gosh, I want to take you to this amazing dinner, we're going to go at 8 p.m. I'd be like, actually, why don't instead we meet at this great coffee shop in the morning at like 7:30? You know what I mean? Because that's, to me, like, that's my boundary, right?
Yeah,
it's
totally with you.
Totally a boundary. And so, but we have these stories like, well, but if I say no, then they're not going to I'm going to lose all my friends, and how will I be social, and all the things. But it's really, like you said, it's about being real about what's on your plate and what needs your energy. And then also you said something about surrounding yourself with women. There's something in energy, like in the study of when you're studying energy and the quantum field and everything, and it's called energy entrainment. And when your energy starts to entrain to the frequency of those that you spend the most time with. Mm-hmm. And so you want to elevate your energy, which then will elevate your external experience. One of the best ways to do that is to surround yourself with people that are operating at an even higher level than you are. At least at your level or higher, because the rest of your life, where you can't control the people that you're around all the time, right? You can't always control that, but where you can, and you can reverse engineer those things. That's why I think masterminds are so powerful. And I know you're launching one in January. Like, I think, I think that is the flex. That is community. It's community, it's energy, it's working with your energy and surrounding yourself with people that are going to elevate your energy just by being in their proximity, just by being around them.
And the inverse of that, which is crazy, goodness, there was a book I read this year, The Power of Mattering by Zach Macario. And actually in that book, he has a stat in there that when you surround yourself with people, I believe it was him. I maybe shouldn't quote him on this, but long story short, that book was very significant to me this year. But long story short, what it brought up is that when you surround yourself with people with high energy that elevate you, that are quote unquote doing what you want to do, you end up becoming 15% better at your performance just by being in their present within a 25-foot radius. However, the inverse is when you inversely surround yourself with people with the low energy, doing the things, bringing your level of performance down, your production level goes down by 25%.
Yeah.
So it can be actually more detrimental to be around the people that are going to bring you down. And sometimes we're like, oh, we don't want to go around that person because they're ahead of me or they're in front of me. Good. That is going to sharpen your pencil. That's going to make you better. That's going to elevate you. And if it intimidates you a little, good. Like, it's okay, because guess what? You're that person as someone else, and it will start to feel comfortable the more you put yourself in those environments.
Yeah,
but if you ever
100%.
risk yourself to put in that pond, you're never going to grow. I always think about like a Siamese fish. Like, you put it in this small little tank, it's only going to grow to the size that the fish, at the fish store that they gave you, and you were like, went to, we were a little kid, and then you put it into a large tank, it's going to grow to its environment. And we are very much like that as humans. When do we have to jump to that bigger fish bowl?
Yeah. Something else that's really interesting that just came to me is, so I teach, and I know that you probably teach this too, is that, our external reality is always a mirror, right? So your business is actually just a mirror of you. It's an extension of you. And if you are like Erika or I and have these goals and you want to serve women or you want to serve people, or maybe you want to get into coaching or whatever that is, that you will attract the behavior that is just a reflection of your behavior. And the reason I bring it up is because there's so many women I know who are wanting to serve other women, but they're not investing in themselves. So they attract these women or men who they're interested, but they're like, I couldn't. And so I say to them, like, okay, where are you not investing in you? Right? Where, and I bet if you looked at your timeline and you looked at the times where you would make that big, scary, like, I'm going to invest in myself, that you always saw it reflected back in something.
1,000%, 1,000%. And I always ask, like, it's actually a question that I ask on my podcast. I'm like, if I were to hand you $25,000 tomorrow, what would you do with it? And I will tell you that like 9 out of 10 of the people that I interview always say I'd invest it back in myself.
Yeah.
Not to be selfish, but to really be selfless, to go and serve better. Because if we're not investing in ourselves, how are we expected to be able to serve on the best frequency for someone else? And, this last year, I did a heroic speaking class that was, a multiple 5-figure like investment in myself. And I'm actually getting ready to make another investment. And it always feels so scary before I do it. Yeah. But I know unless I'm willing to take that leap of faith, I am not going to grow into that bigger pond. So I love that you said that. And investing in yourself can be the best gift. I always say, even to my kids, right? There's like 3 things like I can't take away from you ever. Like we can take away the phone away. We can take, the new Under Armour away. I was like, but there's love, right? And God, right? There's experience, right? And there's education. And those things, like, those will always be with you, no matter where you're living, what you're doing. Like, if those 3 gifts I can leave you with, they may not be wrapped up in a perfect bow, but if I can leave you with those 3 gifts at the end of the day, like, then I've done my job as a mother.
Yeah. Oh, that's so beautiful. Okay, so I want to talk about this word audacity, because this is a very important word for you, and audacious. And I want to know where did that connection come from for you? Like, why does that word why is it anchored so deeply in who you are and in the work that you're creating?
Thank you for asking this question, because it goes back to a reference I made earlier. 3 years ago, my life really like had a life-changing moment. And I'll tell you, like prior to that, this was in 2022. Like I thought I was living this big, bold, audacious life, right? Like I was the girl with the hard hat. I was going to work every day, civil engineer with my MBA, 2 kids, pool in the backyard, happy, family life, everything short of like the white picket fence. And what I realized after I share with you what happened, that I really, as I looked at myself in the rearview mirror, I realized like I wasn't really living the biggest, boldest, audacious life that I was destined to live. And sometimes it takes a life altering moment. Sometimes it takes that setback for that comeback. Sometimes it takes that break to make you have that breakthrough. And so 3 years ago, I was, again, corporate job, drove into the parking lot, had my Himalayan sea salts, lemon water as I was pulling in just from a 9 o'clock coffee meeting. Husband was in Kansas City. Kids were with the sitters, day 2 off of school. At that time, they were 6 and 9. And I remember taking that last sip of Himalayan sea salt, gathering all my belongings, thinking about the day that I had in front of me. And as I opened my door, there he was. You see, it was a man I had never seen before. It was a man who I asked quickly, "Sir, could I help you?" And before I could even probably finish that last syllable, he punched me straight in the face. He grabbed me from the hair and he threw me on that asphalt pavement. He beat the living crap out of me like I was a rag doll. And I fought, I screamed, blood, tears, saliva ripped down my face. I was in the middle of my parking lot where I had worked for 10 years. In a beautiful little town at 10 o'clock in the morning. And you see, no one heard me. No one saw me. There were no cameras on the building. And as I fought and as I bit and as I tried everything in my power to get away, he took that large crease of his elbow and probably in a matter of 3 seconds, but felt like 3 minutes, put it under my neck and proceeded to strangle me. And everything in my world went black. But you see, in that moment, I thought that was my last moment to be the mom to Adeline and Drew, the last moment to be the wife to Andy, the last moment to live that big, bold, audacious life. And by the act of God and something so much higher than me, I was able to get to my feet. I was able to run for help with a blood-curdling scream inside that office building that day and get raced off to the hospital with doctors and detectives and reports that I never can even imagine anyone would have to deal with. As he fled by foot and started burying himself locally in the marshes, the dogs and drones had to come in. And unbeknownst to me, he had been in prison for 12 years. He'd come to Philly the night before, got out prematurely from prison after assaulting 5 prison guards, assaulted 4 women the night before, raped a woman the morning of my event. And I'm still in court with them today. So you see, so many people would say, "I'm so sorry that happened to you, Erika." But that's exactly where the audacity began. And sometimes it's that moment where I remember within probably 72 hours of that event, I was home finally from the hospital. And I remember being a warm summer day with my big hooded sweatshirt on, thinking, why did this happen to me? Wanting to be that victim. And yet in that moment, I don't know if it was the giggles of my kids in the pool, if it was their splashes, but it reminded me that I had a choice. I had a choice in that moment to be that victim, to be a survivor, or decide to thrive through this. And I'm not saying that day I decided just to put the superwoman cape on and become this audacious, big, bold woman. But what I did decide to do is that I had a choice of what I was going to do with this situation that happened to me. I was going to go to therapy. I was going to do the work. I was going to go through the pain. I was going to document what happened to me and share it with other people. So if you ask why audacity, the audacity to do something that maybe you wouldn't have done in other circumstances, taking that risk. Maybe it's tying up your sneakers tomorrow. And let's face it, we've all had our punches. We've all had that moment in our life, whether it's been the death of a lost one, whether that's been someone that's committed suicide, whether that's finding out about a terminally ill child, whatever that may be. We've all had our punches, and my punch is no worse or no better than anyone else's. It's just my story, and you all have your story. How can you use that story to be that light for other people? And that's really where audacity was born. of when people said, wow, you're so brave, you're so bold, I can't believe you're speaking about this in public. What if he finds you? And I was just like, listen, I can't play small anymore. And from that moment on, I've continued to unfold the word, and again, probably started in all lowercase, and now it's become all capital, and now it's really become my brand.
Mm-hmm. Oh, Erika, it's the first time I've heard like that story in this way. And, it's, I wrote down and I wrote down audacity, ... to choose to live, because it's a choice, right? And I do think that audacity lives it is that choice point. Like, will you be audacious enough to let go of the inherent want or need to identify as the victim and instead see it for the catalyst, the experience that led to you living your biggest, highest expression? So many times we sit, and whether you pray or you meditate or you journal, and you're saying, God, I just show me the way. I want to live the life I was born for.
Mm-hmm.
But then when things happen or shake up, and it doesn't always have to be in this way, right? I think everyone has different experiences for a different reason. And now you're going to be able to serve women who have been victimized in a way that, in a very specific way that I wouldn't be able to, right? Like, because of your specific experience. And so we think it's all about us, but actually I think it is in the moment, and that moment it is about you. And after that moment, it becomes not about you anymore. But the problem is we continue to make it about us, right? We continue to look in the mirror and say, well, this was to me. But what if this was for others? And this was such a part of your path, right? And I just want everyone to really ground into that and think about, where in your life are you still holding the victim card? And you're saying, this was to me, this was for me, this was this was to me, and it was only about me. And what if that experience is the missing link, right? For you to be able to catalyze something. Oh,
and that's exactly what I figured out, and I'm still figuring out, right? Like, I don't have it. It's not like in a perfect little box, right? I'm still unfolding it and understanding, but the more I work through it, right? I always say, listen, either the fire is going to burn around you or you're going to walk through it. And when you decide to walk through, you're going to figure out a lot of things. And I'm still figuring out. And I always say to my kids, everything's figure outable, right? When they tell me that they can't make themselves a sandwich, you can figure it out, right? It's all figure outable. And we have that beauty. I really believe that it was a gift given to me, and people and one of the best things, Anniston, that happened to me very quickly after that event. And again, I'm not telling anyone what their time frame looks like, but the biggest way that I was able to move on is I forgave him.
Yeah.
Because I realized that the man who did this to me, he had a past.
Yeah.
And something happened that went really awry. Now, I am not saying he should be matriculated into mainstream America anymore. I'm not saying that he shouldn't serve the time that's due, but I will tell you that once I was able to forgive and let that go versus, why did you do this to me? I was able to have a lot of massive breakthroughs and really resurrect a lot of trauma that had happened to me decades prior to it in my childhood, that I was able to unlock, that I had been repressing for so long.
Yeah.
That I was like, oh, I forgot all that junk was down there.
So true.
It's funny what gates that will start to open.
Yeah.
And then I'd take it full circle. And right now, I'm actually working with legislation in Pennsylvania to pass the law, because when you get strangled in the state of Pennsylvania with a stranger, it's a misdemeanor versus a felony. And so it's 1 to 3 years versus 10 years in prison. And although that will not change the outcome of my verdict, it will change the life of someone else. And again, that's coming full circle. And I did not name it, but legislation has actually named it the Erika's Law. And that if that's the legacy on top of the love and education and experiences I leave my kids, then that's why God put me on this earth.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, I totally agree with you. I think when you can start looking through, God's eyes, or the eyes of compassion, knowing that man, you'd have to be really hurting for that to be the next logical thing. Like, I think this is what I have to do in order to survive, right? I have to inflict pain in order to make the pain I'm feeling feel better. You know what I mean? And it doesn't mean you have to like it or condone it or any of that, but you actually set yourself free in that way. And I've often thought, and Rudy and I both feel really strongly about this and would love to in the future really support, but like, I just think that the way that our government is set up and the prison system is set up, it doesn't actually rehabilitate anybody. It's not actually healing them. You know what I mean? Like, they're just being contained. And in some situations, it's getting worse because of you know what I mean? And so I think there's a lot of area for opportunity.
Yes, for how a whole podcast just
how we rehabilitate. But anyways,
Yes.
I just want to say thank you for sharing that story so openly with this audience and for being so willing to share your journey through it and how it's informed you. And I know that, you know, in your work, and this is kind of a bit of a pivot, but I think it's really important because, you know, you have this big, powerful energy, Erika. And I know that that's, you know, it's a part of your trademark. It's a part of your signature energy. And you spend a lot of time working in a male-dominated industry, right? And you are this powerful leader, but how would you guide women who are being called into leadership or are in leadership roles that have a hard time finding that balance of being their authentic self and really like showing up as who they are and sharing their gifts versus who they think they have to be in order to be respected amongst a male-dominated industry?
Love this question. And for someone who's been a male-dominated industry for 2 decades, let me tell you, when I first stepped out of school with my civil engineering degree and said I was getting into construction and ended up in Elizabeth, New Jersey, south of the Newark airport, not a place that a 22-year-old anyone wants to hang out, but necessarily a female right out of college with bars on my trailer for 2 years, building a hotel from the ground floor up on a top of a old landfill. And I will tell you from that day on, and I share a lot of these stories actually in my book, because I think it's so important to understand. And whether you're in a true male-dominated world or not, let's face it, there's still inequity. Like, that's not like we're not 100% there yet. But with only about 10% of women being in the construction industry, particularly the industry that I'm in. And when I started, only about 5%. So I've seen it grow, double itself, but still not nearly where it needs to be. And the best analogy that I'll give, and it's very simple, but it's really pertains to so many aspects of it, is I remember for probably the first half of my career, I felt that I needed to wear tan, navy, or black, right? That was how I had to show up. If I wanted a seat at the boardroom, if I wanted to be able to walk in that room. And I will tell you, and I talk about this in my book, is I now show up with the hot pink pants on.
Yeah,
or
you do.
a skirt like I have today, because I'm going, you know what I mean? I'm actually doing a corporate meeting this afternoon and not being afraid to show up as I am. I know I'm going to bring the best to the table. They are not paying me to be a robot. They're paying me to think outside the box and bring something different that my other 9 male counterparts aren't thinking of or aren't willing to do. And at the end of the day, I think we have to remind ourselves that, like, if they don't like the pink pants or they don't like the loud voice or they don't like this, then you're not in the right room. And that's like for your decision. You're not going to change them. You can only change yourself. And I think it goes back to even like the masterminds that we're in. Like, where's that right energy that you need to be in? I'm not saying it's prescriptive when you're in a male-dominated industry, but I think it's really showing up as your most authentic self. Now, that does not mean I walk into every meeting and I'm like, let's be bold and audacious. And I know my audience, right? I know what I need to do and the levers I need to move. But by you willing to show up, quote unquote, with the pink pants, or bring the opinion to the table, or raise your hand first, or lean in and sit at the middle of the board table, and I don't mean the actual middle, but I mean the middle seat, and that you're showing to me the reason I'm doing that is I'm holding that torch for the woman that's behind me. And if I don't do it, she's not going to do it. And you can continue to do it, not just for yourself, but for the people that are behind you and for the women that went in front of me that did it. That's when you know, like, hey, listen, I'm making a difference. It's going back to that, being that light for other people. And it's not easy. And like I said, I share a lot of stories in my book where there were days where the mascara was running. I was in the bathroom. Had to do everything to bite my tongue, not to say what I really wanted to say, to probably get fired that day.
Yeah.
But I also needed to be true to myself.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, I mean, you have such knowledge and experience in this area that I really, really hope any woman that's listening to this will seek you out and who is really struggling with this, because I know that it's real. I mean, I not that long ago was in a high level position as well. And thankfully, I mean, in the company I was working for, interestingly enough, the top executive team were almost all females. And then all of the mid-level management, most of them were all male. So that brings its own,
That's a whole other dynamic.
Interesting dynamic. But I think more and more women are being called into leadership and to express and to serve, but they're trying to be a man when you're then discounting all that makes you amazing. You know what I mean? You're being able to say, I don't know, I have a feeling about this. Like, you get to say that. Like, your intuition matters, and it could be the difference between your company completely, go like exponentially growing or failing. Right. And you have to start trusting that. And I think you being able to show up as your bright, bold, amazing self in this room. I mean, I'm sure you're a light. I'm sure you just you bring your light into whatever room you're going into, and that does its magic. Right.
But I also think like the self deprecation. And when I say that, I mean that in the best of ways. Like, I'm not saying like deprecate yourself, but like also like not being afraid. I'm so comfortable with it now. Like, I was in a board meeting yesterday and I'm like, all right, I know this is a big idea and I know it's probably too much. Like, and just putting it out there, right? Like, people know you're going to bring, like, once you get to that level, like, you're going to bring those ideas, and just being able to be fun and playful with it too. And leaning in, it's so hard for me. And I'm sure you suffered with this a lot too, not wanting to live in that male dominated go, get, accomplish, and leaning more into the feminine energy. We were put here as female to be able to bring that energy. Why are we not utilizing it?
Heck yeah. I mean, no, I'm like, yes. I'm like fist pumping over here. 100%. Okay. So before we close out today, I really want to talk about your book. And I want to talk about audacious expansion. And I do believe that we do things for one of two reasons: to avoid pain or for pleasure. And I always like to go into, because I'm an avid reader just like you. And there are so many books out there, right? So many books. What will she gain from reading Audacious Expansion?
Oh, I love this. Well, from the minute you open this book, and literally the front cover is the book ripping, because what I want you to be able to do is from the second you start reading chapter 1, which starts with my story that I just shared with you, to understand where your audacious expansion needs to be. And at the end of every chapter, we talk about what the actions you need to take. So it's great to read a book. It's great to read those pages. It's great to know, hey, listen, I'm going to go after this big, bold, audacious goal. But if we're not taking the actions, we're not disclosing it to other people, we're not putting pen to paper and actually making it happen, then all there is words. And we're 43% more likely to make it happen when we actually write it down. We're 78% more likely to make it happen when we share it with someone else. And really what I want this book to be is a movement. I want it to be a journey. I want it to be a community. And at the every chapter reminds you, audacious expansion hashtag. I want to hear the stories of what everyone's doing every day. And that story could be as simple as, I put my sneakers on and walked a half a mile today, right? Like, I don't want everyone to think it needs to be these big bold things, but what it will ultimately do for you is help you really crack that nut. It's going to help you open yourself up, be open to those things, that burning desire in your stomach, that thought that's been on your brain, that flutter that's been in your heart, for you to say, I'm ready. I'm ready to expand. I am ready for that next step. I'm ready to say no to this and yes to this. I'm ready to stop serving here and start serving there. I'm ready actually to take a pause right now because I know in order to audaciously expand, then I need a pause right now in my life. So ultimately, by the time you get to chapter 22, which is my favorite, also a little tattoo on my wrist, you'll find out the significance of 22 when you get to that chapter. But by the time you finish reading that last word, that you're going to be ready. You're going to have all the tools you need. You're going to have the work that you've done. You're going to start to build the community by investing not only in yourself, but in the other women that are reading this book, and recognize that it's your turn to audaciously expand. It's your turn to take that leap of faith. And it's your turn to make 2026 an absolutely epic year.
Oh, I am so enrolled. I'm so enrolled. And we're going to link the book. It's going to be available for pre-sale, I believe, at the time that this episode is dropping. So we're going to put the link. And I want to implore all of you, because you know what? We all support our sisters. We all get to grow together. That you click on the link and you order your copy, because I can tell you because me being the master numerologist, next year is a one universal year. It is a brand new chapter for all of us. This is going to be the year, right, where you're planting those seeds of what is to come, and what Erika is offering you as a structure. She's offering you a framework, right, that you can use to support you in moving forward. And I know that she'll be also launching additional support early in 2026, and as far as a mastermind. And so I love all the work and everything that you're doing in the world, Erika. And I just want
to say to you for your book, and what you did on that stage at Align, the reason, coming up to you with your energy and just who you are and how you present yourself, and just being one of those women who I'm like, that's going to be me. And you are that constant light for so many women. So much so, I'll take it full circle. This last year, we're on vacation and I was reading your book, and I was actually, travel went a little bit awry. Our rental car didn't end up working out. We had to take a bus from Seattle to British Columbia because we were going on an Alaskan cruise. And let me tell you, that's a whole nother experience, again, for another podcast. But as I was on that bus, we had to go through customs, and I ended up having to sit in the front row next to this one woman. And as I sat down next to her and I started talking, and she was on a sabbatical. She just really needed to find her own expansion and what the next level of her life looked like. And I had literally just finished reading your book that morning. And I don't give my books away, but I felt such a calling to give this woman a copy of your book because it resonated with me so much so. She has all my highlights and all my notes and my circles and stars in it. And I know that in the last 3 months of her being on the sabbatical, she's read that book and she's been on that farm, and I know it's changed her life. So when it comes full circle, you have been that light for me. And I just want to honor you in that way too.
Thank you so much. I receive that. And I love how we are all just so connected in ways that we couldn't even fathom. You know what I mean? Like, I can't wait till we all graduate and we actually get to like pull back the curtain and be like, oh my gosh, you know what I mean? And really see, because we really are all so connected, and we're all supporting each other in little ways, big ways, in ways that we couldn't even possibly understand. And no doubt, Audacious Expansion is going to do the same, and it's going to have a whole energy of its own. And so I want to, again, encourage everyone, buy the book, start 2026 the way that, with the support. And thank you again, Erika, for joining us on the Anniston Riekstins show. It was a pleasure to be in your energy, in your space, and to learn from you.
Be audacious.
Be audacious. And for all of you listening, I love you. I see you, and I will catch you on next week's episode.